The waters of the Amazon slow to a quiet murmur in the early hours before sunrise. Fog clings to the surface like wet gauze, and the thick canopy above filters out the moonlight in broken, shifting patterns. Beneath this darkened veil of swamp and shadow, the world is still until it isn't. Without a ripple, without a sound, something enormous stirs in the silt-heavy water. What appears at first glance to be a half-submerged tree trunk slowly reveals itself inch by inch as coils of dense olive-green muscle shift and unwind. Eyes just barely above the surface, the green anaconda waits. It doesn't need to move often. It doesn't need to chase. It waits for the world to come too close. This apex predator thrives not through speed or aggression, but through patience, honed by millions of years of evolution. The green anaconda, Eunectes marinus, possesses a physique that seems designed by nature for ambush and annihilation. Its DNA, an intricate blueprint of slow metabolic rhythm, vascular endurance, and muscle development, supports an animal that can crush bones without the aid of venom or claws. Its muscular structure is not just strong, it is optimized for precision pressure. Each coil of its body is capable of applying consistent and escalating force, enough to collapse the rib cage of a large mammal or rupture internal organs through sheer, unrelenting compression. In a region saturated with competition, where predators abound in every biome, the green anaconda holds its domain within the murky boundaries of oxbow lakes, flooded forests, and sluggish river channels. Here, in these shallow waters clogged with reeds and driftwood, the snake's body is nearly indistinguishable from its environment. Its skin is patterned with dark oval blotches and a counter-shading gradient, dull olive above, pale below, that functions as natural camouflage. From below, it vanishes into the gloom. From above, it's lost in the reflection of trees and sky. This cryptic coloration is more than aesthetic. It's a survival mechanism, not just for ambush, but for avoiding detection by larger predators when young. When prey ventures into range, capybaras, caimans, even tapirs, the ambush begins not with speed, but with geometry. The anaconda does not lunge, it pivots with deceptive slowness, looping its body in a sudden burst of coiled muscle. A strike comes not from the mouth but from the midsection, where the snake aims to wrap its bulk around the prey's core. Its teeth are rear-facing and recurved, designed not to kill but to secure. Once locked in, constriction begins, not like the rapid suffocation depicted in fiction, but in pulses. The pressure isn't constant. It increases every time the prey exhales, never allowing another breath in. Lungs collapse, blood flow halts, organs rupture. The heart, starved of blood and crushed by the chest cavity's collapse, fails shortly thereafter. To a human, an intruder in this ecosystem, the anaconda is not innately aggressive. It doesn't seek human flesh, but mistakes happen. A lone explorer crossing a flooded forest trail may tread into the shallows at dusk, when visibility drops and the predator stirs. From the water's edge with no warning, the coils erupt. If mistaken for prey or stepped on in the wrong moment, the outcome could be catastrophic. Survivors of such attacks often describe the sensation not of pain, but of immobilization. The pressure begins before the brain can register what's happening. Bones crack, breath disappears, limbs go numb. Limbs go. In rare instances, humans have been killed, not out of hunger, but through defensive instinct. But perhaps the most chilling element of this species lies not in its strength, but in its silence. The green anaconda hunts with a predator's patience, but possesses the sensory tools of an animal designed to find life in darkness. Specialized heat-sensing pits along the upper lip can detect the infrared signatures of warm-blooded animals, even in pitch-black water. This allows the snake to see the heartbeat of an animal before it ever breaks the surface. Paired with vibration-sensitive tissues along its flanks, the anaconda can track movement both above and below water with surgical accuracy. Interestingly, its metabolism is tailored to this ambush lifestyle. After a large kill, a green anaconda may not eat for weeks, sometimes months. It digests slowly, efficiently, converting massive protein loads into fat reserves that sustain it through long intervals. During these times, it becomes sluggish, reclusive, and difficult to spot. A full anaconda can be so still that algae begins to grow on its back, blending it further into the aquatic flora. Yet despite all this lethality, the green anaconda is also incredibly vulnerable in certain stages of life. Hatchlings, born live rather than from eggs, are only about 2 feet long and fall prey to a long list of predators, caimans, herons, even other snakes. Their first years are spent in constant movement, fleeing from threat after threat until they are large enough to become threats themselves. One particularly startling observation is how the anaconda can function with remarkably low oxygen for long durations. During prolonged submersion, it can slow its heart rate dramatically, a trait shared with marine reptiles, but rare in freshwater snakes. This allows it to remain hidden underwater for up to 10 minutes at a time, rendering it practically invisible to both prey and human eyes. And still, the danger doesn't come solely from its ability to kill. An encounter with a green anaconda is dangerous because the human mind is not wired to recognize it in time. Its attack comes not with a hiss or a rattle, but in perfect quiet. Its camouflage fools both the eye and the brain. There is no instinctive human fear of this particular pattern in nature, no warning colors or noises to cue survival mechanisms. In the Amazon, where trees drown in seasonal floods and visibility is limited to arm's length, this predator is invisible until it is already too late. Yet even among seasoned biologists, the anaconda's biology still defies expectations. Muscle density in a 20-foot snake far exceeds what's required for mobility. Some researchers speculate this extra strength evolved not just for prey, but to survive the physical strain of hauling massive bodies through dense vegetation and muck. Others suggest it's a result of sexual selection, where larger females, often twice the size of males, use their bulk as leverage in mate competition and protection of their offspring. At the crossroads of biology, myth, and raw power, the green anaconda remains one of the most feared and misunderstood creatures of the Amazon. It does not roar or slash or inject venom. It waits. It watches. And when the moment is right, it moves with the inevitability of a river current and the crushing certainty of an avalanche. It doesn't need to chase because it never misses. In the filtered light of the Amazon understory, color becomes a matter of survival. Most creatures here wear camouflage, dull browns, mottled greens, and patterns designed to disappear against bark and leaf. But amid the shadows and mulch, where moss clings to twisted roots and insects swarm over damp foliage, a flicker of color breaks the rule. On a leaf slick with last night's rain, a frog the size of a thumbprint climbs slowly upward. Its skin glistens in hues so vivid they seem artificial, brilliant sapphire, blazing yellow, or searing crimson depending on the species. These are not the colors of vulnerability. They are not a display for mates or a defense of concealment. They are a warning, a visual scream to the world. I am dangerous. I can kill you without ever biting. Poison dart frogs, or dendrobatids, are among the most chemically lethal animals on Earth. Native to the humid lowland forests of Central and South America, these amphibians have evolved a toxic arsenal so potent that even casual contact can become a death sentence. Their skin secretes batrachotoxin, a compound so efficient in its violence that a dose smaller than a grain of salt can induce cardiac arrest in humans. What makes their toxicity even more extraordinary is its source. These frogs are not born poisonous. Their venomous capacity is not a product of their genetics alone, but a result of diet, a process known as bioaccumulation. Feeding primarily on ants, mites, and other arthropods that carry alkaloid toxins, the frogs absorb and modify these compounds in specialized skin glands, concentrating the chemicals until they become biologically weaponized. This system of defense is unique not just for its effectiveness, but for the way it reshapes predator-prey dynamics. Most animals avoid poison dart frogs instinctively. Evolution has etched the warning signs into the genetic memory of birds, reptiles, and even mammals. The phenomenon, known as aposematism, uses bold coloration to advertise danger, an evolutionary bluff unless the threat is real. In this case, it absolutely is. Birds that make the mistake of attacking a poison frog quickly learn the cost. Nausea, convulsions, sometimes death, all triggered within minutes of ingestion. And unlike venomous snakes or stinging insects, these frogs make no attempt to escape. Their small, delicate bodies move with slow confidence, unburdened by the need to flee. Toxicity has freed them from timidity. Yet what might seem like a universal defense is in fact a delicate, highly specialized adaptation. Not all poison dart frogs are equally toxic. Some species, such as Philobates terribilis, the golden poison frog of Colombia, are among the most poisonous vertebrates known to science. Others, while still distasteful to predators, are far less dangerous to humans. The intensity of toxicity depends largely on the frog's native diet and habitat. When raised in captivity and deprived of their natural prey, these frogs often lose their toxicity entirely. This discovery, first made by herpetologists breeding the species in controlled environments, underscores a fascinating truth. Their venom is not a fixed trait, but a dynamic interplay between organism and ecosystem. What remains one of the most scientifically puzzling features, however, is their immunity. Batrachotoxin operates by binding to sodium channels in nerve cells, locking them open and disrupting the electrical signaling that governs movement, breathing, and heartbeat. In nearly all vertebrates, this is a fatal process. Yet poison dart frogs carry the same channels and remain unaffected. Research has revealed that mutations in these ion channels prevent the toxin from binding, a genetic anomaly that protects the frog while allowing it to stockpile and deploy the deadly substance. This self-resistance is not without cost. Mutations that alter nerve function often carry trade-offs, potentially affecting the frog's own responsiveness or energy efficiency. But in this case, the evolutionary benefit has clearly outweighed the burden. While their defense may seem purely passive, these frogs do not rely on their toxins alone. Their behavior is complex, and in some species, territorial. Males emit high-pitched trills to ward off rivals or attract mates, staking out patches of territory no larger than a dinner plate. Breeding pairs show remarkable parental investment. The female lays a clutch of eggs on a damp leaf, and after hatching, the male or female transports the tadpoles one at a time on their backs to small pools of water, often inside bromeliads perched high in the canopy. In species like Ufaga pumilio, the strawberry poison dart frog, the mother returns regularly to deposit unfertilized eggs, which the tadpoles consume as their sole food source. This parental care ensures the next generation survives to maturity long enough to begin their toxic education through diet. Despite their size, these frogs have held enormous cultural and historical weight. Indigenous tribes in the Amazon have long recognized their potency. Some cultures once harvested the frogs carefully, never touching them directly, by exposing darts or blowgun tips to the skin's secretions. The poison would remain effective for weeks, paralyzing or killing animals struck in the jungle. Contrary to myth, the frogs were not always used in warfare or aggression. The process was ritualistic, limited, and deeply tied to the tribe's understanding of ecology and respect for the animal. Even today, the scientific name Philobates, meaning leaf walker, reflects an awareness of their delicate relationship with the forest's web of life. And yet, their toxicity is not universal, and therein lies an irony. The same frogs that could kill with a touch in the wild are entirely harmless in captivity. Without their native food supply, their glands go dormant. Their colors remain vivid, but their chemistry is neutered. This makes them popular, though controversial, in the exotic pet trade, kept behind glass in curated environments where their danger is symbolic rather than real. But it also raises a larger question: how many deadly traits in nature are conditional? How much of an animal's lethality is embedded in its DNA, and how much is the result of environment? For researchers, poison dart frogs offer an extraordinary window into chemical ecology, neurobiology, and evolution. Their ability to resist their own toxin could inspire treatments for nerve-related diseases. But trachotoxin itself, in controlled forms, has been studied for its potential as a painkiller, its nerve-disrupting properties offering insights into the mechanics of sensation and chronic pain. But there is a razor-thin line between medicine and poison, and nowhere is this line more pronounced than in the cells of a frog whose entire defense strategy is built around toxicity. To the untrained eye, a poison dart frog might appear almost ornamental, bright, toy-like, fragile. But this is a dangerous misjudgment. It is not their strength, speed, or size that makes them dangerous. It is their chemistry, evolved not for hunting but for survival in an ecosystem crowded with predators and competition. Their strategy is simple yet terrifying: touch me and die. There is no struggle, no warning, no second chance. In the delicate balance of the Amazon, where every species is shaped by 1,000 threats, the poison dart frog stands apart. It doesn't hide. It announces itself boldly, an evolutionary dare painted in the brightest colors nature can produce. And in doing so, it turns the rules of survival on their head. In a world where the smallest creatures are often the most vulnerable, the poison dart frog is untouchable by design, by chemistry, and by the deadly elegance of its toxic skin. The waters of the Amazon River are deceptively quiet. Beneath a surface that shimmers in the afternoon heat, beneath the shadows cast by overhanging branches and tangled vines, a darker reality churns. Here, in backwater pools and slow-moving tributaries where visibility drops to nothing beyond a few inches, a school of red-bellied piranhas glides in synchronized motion. Their movements are precise, almost rehearsed, with the kind of coordination typically associated with birds in flight or soldiers in formation. They are not patrolling. They are waiting. These fish, often dismissed as myth by skeptics or exaggerated into horror by storytellers, are in fact something more interesting than either extreme. The piranha is a highly evolved predator built for efficiency, not chaos. Their reputation for ferocity is earned, but it is not constant. Most of the time they behave like any other mid-tier fish species, schooling for protection, feeding opportunistically, avoiding conflict when possible. But under the right conditions, when blood enters the water, when food becomes scarce, when one of their own begins to thrash, the transformation is instant. A flick of chemical signal, a trace of movement, and a feeding frenzy ignites with terrifying speed. The anatomical foundation for this violence lies in the piranha's bite. The red-bellied piranha, Pygocentrus natareri, boasts one of the strongest bite forces relative to body size of any vertebrate. Their jaws are short and deep, giving them a powerful leverage advantage. The muscles that control jaw movement contract at high velocity, and the teeth, perfectly interlocking like scissors, are triangular, razor-sharp, and continuously replaced throughout the fish's life. Each tooth is angled to puncture and shear, optimized not just for taking bites, but for removing chunks of flesh in a single stroke. In practical terms, this means that a feeding piranha doesn't chew, it saws. Evolution has shaped this mouth into a precision tool for survival. In the chaotic feeding environment of the Amazon, meals are unpredictable. The piranha's body has adapted accordingly, not just with its jaws, but with its musculature. Quick twitch muscle fibers allow explosive bursts of speed. In a river system where predators abound, from caimans to river dolphins to larger fish, survival demands both aggression and agility. A piranha must be able to attack with lethal force and then vanish into the shadows before the larger scavengers arrive. But it is their behavior in groups that most distinguishes them. Piranhas are not solitary hunters. They communicate constantly, using subtle movements, sound pulses, and even changes in coloration. The soft drumming noise produced by their swim bladders acts as a signal to others, sometimes warning, sometimes summoning. During feeding frenzies, this coordination becomes terrifyingly efficient. Dozens of fish may converge in seconds, each taking rapid bites, retreating to avoid competition, then returning. It is not mindless aggression, but a sequence of timed entries and exits, like dancers moving across a stage soaked in blood. What triggers these frenzies is a complex blend of sensory cues and environmental pressure. Blood, of course, is a potent attractant, its chemical signature drifting through water in thin molecular streams. But so too is the thrashing of prey, the vibrations caused by panic. Even splashing can provoke an investigation. The piranha's lateral line system, a series of sensory cells that run along each side of its body, detects these water disturbances with extraordinary precision, allowing the fish to hone in on the source before it's even visible. Ironically, this sensitivity can lead them to attack creatures many times their size. Injured animals, cornered capybaras, drowning birds, even the occasional human. If the signs are right, if the signals are strong, the swarm responds. And in those moments, size becomes irrelevant. 1,000 tiny cuts from dozens of mouths, delivered in seconds, can strip an animal to the bone before it has time to struggle. Bones have been found cleaned so thoroughly that forensic scientists initially mistook them for remains placed in acid. Such incidents involving humans are extremely rare, but they do happen. Most occur during the dry season when food becomes scarce and river levels drop, forcing species into tighter spaces. In such periods, the density of piranhas increases, and so too does their aggression. Fishermen wading into shallow lagoons may find themselves suddenly surrounded, especially if they carry the scent of bait or blood on their hands. There have been documented cases of fatal encounters, often involving children, elderly individuals, or those unable to flee quickly. The injuries are consistent. Chunks of flesh removed from limbs, ears, toes, sometimes the face. Survivors describe the sensation as instantaneous, a series of intense stings followed by numbness and shock. What makes these attacks so insidious is their unpredictability. A person may swim safely in a piranha-inhabited river for days without issue, only to be attacked in shallow water under slightly different conditions. There is no malice in these moments, no conscious decision to attack a human. The piranhas are responding to the data: turbulence, vulnerability, chemical cues. The result is simply what nature has programmed into them: test, bite, retreat. If the bite yields blood or soft tissue, others follow. Still, despite their violent potential, piranhas serve a critical role in the Amazon ecosystem. They are not apex predators, but rather scavengers and regulators. They clean up carcasses, remove diseased or dying animals, and prevent the spread of decay through aquatic systems. In this sense, They are the janitors of the jungle's waterways, a role often miscast in popular media. Without them, the slow waters of the Amazon would choke on their own biological refuse. Perhaps the most surprising element of their biology lies in their restraint. Contrary to myth, piranhas often coexist with other fish, sometimes even swimming alongside non-aggressive species in mixed schools. Juvenile piranhas are particularly cautious, feeding primarily on insects and plants until they grow large enough to compete for protein-rich meals. And in captivity, when well-fed and housed properly, they rarely show aggression toward humans. This duality, peaceful under one condition, devastating under another, is what makes them so compelling and so dangerous. There are also regional variations in behavior. Species like the black piranha, Cerassalmus rhombeus, tend to be more solitary and aggressive, while others prefer larger schools and avoid confrontation. Environmental pressures such as temperature, oxygen levels, and food availability all shape their temperament. Even subtle changes in water chemistry can alter their responsiveness to stimuli, leading to outbreaks of aggression or unexpected calm. To those who work on the river, piranhas are a fact of life, not a fairy tale. They are respected, not feared, watched, not hunted. Local knowledge includes signs to avoid, dead animals upstream, periods of heat and drought, signs of nesting. And perhaps this is the lesson most easily missed by those who see them only through the lens of fiction. The piranha is not a monster. It is a product of its environment, finely tuned to the rhythms and pressures of its world. It doesn't hate. It doesn't hunt indiscriminately. But when hunger meets opportunity, when the signals align and instinct takes over, it becomes a machine of astonishing efficiency. It strips not for pleasure or cruelty, but because that is how it survives. And in the unforgiving calculus of the Amazon, that alone is justification enough. At night, the Amazon rainforest takes on a different shape. The cacophony of diurnal life gives way to something more fragmented, more dissonant. The drone of insects swells into a constant hum, punctuated by the occasional shriek of a night monkey or the rustling of branches above. Leaves glisten with condensation, and the forest floor becomes a maze of decay and new growth, where fungi glow faintly in patches and the air itself feels damp and heavy. It's in this dark and often overlooked layer of the jungle, the zone between soil and bark, that one of the most formidable and unsettling predators operates. It doesn't slither or stalk or glide. It scuttles. It climbs. It senses. And when it strikes, it does so with precision, speed, and venom. The Amazonian giant centipede, Scolopendra gigantea, is a creature that defies the expectations of its form. With a segmented body that can exceed 30 centimeters in length, lined with upwards of 20 pairs of legs, it moves like a living machine, each leg touching the surface for only a fraction of a second, yet always connected in a perfect rhythm. The effect is hypnotic, almost alien. And unlike most arthropods, Scolopendra is not confined to one plane of movement. It is as comfortable scaling a vertical tree trunk as it is crawling along the underside of a cave ceiling. Its legs are equipped with microscopic hooks that grip to bark, leaves, rock, and even smooth surfaces like tent walls. There is no direction it cannot go. There is no crevice it cannot find. But its most dangerous feature isn't its mobility, it's its mouth, or more accurately, the modified legs just behind the head, known as forcipules. These specialized appendages have evolved into venomous fangs, tucked neatly beneath the centipede's exoskeletal armor. When it strikes, these curved pincers puncture flesh and inject a complex chemical cocktail composed of enzymes, proteins, and neurotoxins. The venom is not designed merely to kill, it is engineered to overwhelm. In small prey like insects and amphibians, the result is almost immediate paralysis. In larger animals, including vertebrates like mice, frogs, birds and even bats, the venom disrupts cardiovascular and neuromuscular function, causing tissue breakdown, loss of coordination and rapid incapacitation. Observations in the wild have documented this centipede hunting in ways that blur the line between insect and apex predator. In one case, a specimen was seen scaling a cave wall, approaching a roosting bat and coiling around it like a constrictor. With a single bite to the chest, the bat seized and fell silent, its wings still twitching. The centipede then used its legs not just for locomotion, but for anchoring and manipulating the body, folding it into a manageable shape before feeding. This behavior reveals a remarkable degree of coordination and environmental awareness. Scolopendra doesn't just react, it strategizes. Unlike many insects that rely heavily on visual cues, the Amazonian centipede hunts primarily through vibration and temperature. Its antennae, constantly in motion, are sensitive to the slightest disturbances in air and substrate. A footstep on soft earth, the flutter of a bird landing on a branch, the warmth of a mammal resting on a hammock, all of these create sensory footprints that Scolopendra can track. Its body, low-slung and highly articulated, is capable of navigating through cluttered environments silently. This makes it an ideal nocturnal hunter and an unwelcome guest in human shelters. Despite its relatively modest size, Scolopendra is a threat to humans under the right conditions. Its bite is rarely fatal, but the symptoms are severe and disproportionately painful. Victims report an immediate burning sensation, as though hot metal had been pressed into the skin, followed by swelling, nausea, and in some cases, systemic effects, like fever, muscle cramping, and necrosis at the bite site. The enzymes in the venom break down cell membranes, releasing histamines and other compounds that trigger an intense inflammatory response. In tropical environments where medical care may be hours away, such bites can lead to serious secondary infections or permanent tissue damage. Most concerning, however, is the centipede's tendency to enter human spaces. Drawn by warmth, humidity, and the scent of sleeping bodies, they sometimes crawl into tents, shelters, or even beds. Nighttime attacks often occur when someone rolls over in their sleep and presses against the centipede's body, triggering a defensive strike. Children with thinner skin and lower body mass are especially vulnerable. In recorded cases, a bite to the face or neck has led to dangerous swelling of the airways. The centipede doesn't seek out humans, but its hunting range overlaps with human behavior far more than most people realize. Adding to their unsettling nature is their resilience. Scolopendra can survive injuries that would be fatal to other invertebrates. They can regrow lost legs and endure significant physical trauma. Their exoskeleton, while not impervious, offers a surprising degree of protection against crushing and environmental hazards. They are also extremely long-lived for arthropods, with lifespans exceeding 10 years in the wild. This durability, combined with their aggressive nature and diverse diet, has helped them colonize nearly every layer of the rainforest from the floor to the canopy. In terms of evolutionary design, they are a masterclass in efficiency. Each leg moves independently, allowing it to scale unstable surfaces without losing balance. Its body is flexible enough to squeeze through cracks no wider than a pencil, but strong enough to overpower prey many times its size. Its venom is delivered not through fangs, but through modified limbs, turning an already weaponized body into a multi-limbed engine of predation. This is not a creature that evolved to coexist. It evolved to exploit, to infiltrate, to survive where others fail. There is also a psychological component to the fear Scolopendra evokes. Snakes and spiders at least have familiar archetypes. Their dangers are well known, their warnings often visible. But the centipede occupies a more primal space. Its appearance, segmented, twitching, always moving, is deeply alien to mammalian instincts. Its speed and silence make it difficult to track, and its ability to appear in enclosed spaces without warning adds a layer of unease that lingers long after it's gone. Even seasoned field researchers approach them with caution, not out of superstition, but out of respect. And that respect is earned. Scolopendra does not bluff. It does not bluff when it rears up its forebody in a threat display, nor when it lunges forward with its fangs bared. Its warning is the simplicity of its behavior. It strikes only when provoked or when opportunity demands it. But when it does so with no hesitation, no restraint, and no fear of its opponent. In the tangled underworld of the Amazon, where competition is relentless and death can come from any direction, Scolopendra has carved a niche not by brute strength or sheer speed, but by adaptability and overwhelming precision. It is a predator that writes its own rules, climbs its own walls, and haunts the edge between the seen and the unseen. And for those who sleep on the jungle floor, or leave shoes unattended, or forget that even the smallest crack is a potential entry point, it is a reminder that in the Amazon nothing is ever truly safe. Dawn comes slowly to the deeper recesses of the Amazon rainforest. Long after the sun has broken over the canopy, the forest floor remains dim, cloaked in filtered green light and thick humid silence. Among the leaf litter and fallen branches, time stretches differently. Movement is rare, and when it does come, it's deliberate. The underbrush rustles not with frenzy, but with something heavier, something grounded. Beneath a rotting log near the bank of a shaded ravine, a form unwinds, barely distinguishable from the earth itself. It doesn't strike. It doesn't slither. It breathes in the stillness, tasting the air with a flicker of tongue. It is waiting, as it always has. The Bushmaster, Lachesis muta, is an enigma among serpents. Named after one of the fates in Greek mythology, this pit viper commands its corner of the jungle through a combination of size, silence, and biological design that pushes the boundaries of reptilian evolution. Measuring up to 12 feet long, it is the largest venomous snake in the Western Hemisphere, and yet it is rarely seen. Most jungle travelers will walk past it unaware, its pattern of dusky browns and blacks blending seamlessly into the dappled forest floor. Its camouflage is not just visual, it is behavioral. The Bushmaster does not advertise its presence. It doesn't need to. Its head is broad and distinct, flat at the top with a heavy jawline, and two unmistakable heat-sensing pits located between the nostrils and the eyes. These organs, highly sensitive and finely tuned, allow the snake to perceive infrared radiation, the body heat emitted by warm-blooded prey. Even in total darkness, the Bushmaster sees the outline of a rodent or bird as a glowing silhouette. This evolutionary advantage is particularly effective in the Amazon's nighttime theater, where visibility vanishes and most of the forest's mammals begin to stir. The snake does not hunt with its eyes, it hunts with heat. What sets the Bushmaster apart is its restraint. Unlike more aggressive vipers, it is not prone to warning strikes or dramatic defense displays. It relies on patience, often lying in ambush for days at a time without movement. Its metabolism is slow by necessity and by design. A single successful strike and subsequent meal, typically a rat, agouti, or small opossum, can sustain it for weeks. This metabolic thriftiness extends to its venom, which it conserves carefully, deploying only when the strike is calculated and assured. And the venom is considerable. A hemotoxic compound rich in enzymes, it disrupts blood clotting and damages the walls of blood vessels, causing extensive internal bleeding, tissue breakdown, and organ stress. The volume of venom delivered in a single bite is among the highest of any pit viper species. In humans, envenomation often begins with mild symptoms, swelling, discomfort, and lightheadedness, but quickly escalates. Hemorrhaging beneath the skin, kidney failure from protein breakdown, and hypovolemic shock are common if left untreated. What makes this venom particularly insidious is the delayed reaction time. A person bitten in the leg, for example, may feel no more than a sharp sting and a burning sensation for the first hour. This delay has led to tragic miscalculations. Victims who assume the worst is over, only to collapse hours later when systemic failure sets in. Even the snake strike is executed with remarkable precision. Studies of bushmaster neurophysiology suggest a strong alignment between sensory input and muscular coordination. Its attacks are rarely misdirected. The angle of the strike, the depth of the fangs, the delivery of venom, they are all optimized through millennia of pressure and refinement. Unlike some vipers that may strike defensively or impulsively, the bushmaster's approach is nearly surgical. It calculates trajectory and timing with unflinching accuracy, making it one of the most efficient predators in its range. One might expect such a dangerous animal to exhibit confidence in the face of threats. And yet, the bushmaster is deeply reclusive. It avoids confrontation, slipping away silently when disturbed, vanishing beneath root networks or into shallow burrows carved into the muddy slopes of riverbanks. It hunts alone, mates in secret, and disappears into a landscape that seems to fold around it. Herpetologists often speak of the species with a kind of reluctant admiration, not because it is fearsome, but because it is so rarely seen. To encounter a bushmaster in the wild is a rare event, and one that usually ends with the snake retreating long before the human can appreciate what just occurred. The snake's reproductive strategy mirrors this aloof nature. Unlike many pit vipers that bear live young, the bushmaster lays eggs, a rarity among its family. Clutches are carefully buried and guarded by the female for several weeks. This maternal investment is unusual in snakes, especially large venomous ones, and suggests a subtlety in their ecological strategy that is not often acknowledged. Hatchlings emerge fully equipped with venom and instinct, ready to hunt almost immediately, though their mortality rate is high due to predation. Human encounters with bushmasters are uncommon, but the consequences can be severe. Most bites occur when the snake is accidentally stepped on or disturbed at close range. Its camouflage is so effective that even experienced trackers can miss it among fallen leaves. And because it lacks the aggressive warning behavior of rattlesnakes or cobras, the bushmaster gives no cue before it defends itself. In isolated regions without access to antivenom, a bite can be fatal. Recovery, even with treatment, often includes long-term tissue damage, impaired kidney function, and deep psychological trauma. In the wider ecological context of the Amazon, the bushmaster plays an essential role. It controls rodent populations, many of which are agricultural pests or disease carriers. By keeping these populations in check, the snake contributes to the stability of the forest's food web. Its low reproductive rate and slow maturation, however, make it vulnerable to environmental disruption. Deforestation, habitat fragmentation, and human encroachment reduce the territory available for such reclusive species. When forced closer to human settlements, the risk of conflict increases, and the snake, not the human, usually loses. Still, despite these challenges, the bushmaster endures. Its quiet efficiency, its mastery of stealth, and its lethal precision have earned it a reputation that few other creatures share. It is not the most visible predator, nor the fastest, nor even the most feared, but it may be the most perfected. Every trait it possesses, from its infrared vision to its venom chemistry to its coiled patience, is a product of refinement, not excess. It does not kill to dominate, only to survive. It does not seek attention, only opportunity. In a biome dominated by noise and chaos, the Bushmaster is a whisper in the dark. It is the dry rasp of scales against bark, the unseen shape at the edge of the torchlight. It is nature's proof that lethality does not require spectacle, only precision, only silence. Rain falls in sheets over the Amazon basin, softening the forest's edges into a blurred mosaic of movement and moisture. The air is dense with the scent of decay and rebirth, fermenting fruit, wet bark, and the sweet tang of pollen drifting across tangled branches. Everything here is alive in a way that feels ancient and continuous. Roots strangle trees as vines bloom overhead, and tiny insects march in endless columns over the carcasses of larger creatures. The rainforest is not just a habitat, it is a living system of competition, pressure, and astonishing adaptation. It is in every sense a crucible where survival shapes biology into forms that defy logic and, in many cases, human understanding. In this biome of extremes, the boundary between predator and prey blurs, and lethality takes many shapes. Some come with coils of brute muscle, others in the shimmer of iridescent skin, or behind eyes fixed in absolute stillness. Every sound has consequence. Every movement may be the last for something small and unguarded. Each species in this web reflects not just its own story of evolution, but the force of 1 million interactions layered across thousands of years. Nowhere is this clearer than in the animals that have evolved to become near-perfect agents of death, not out of malice, but out of necessity. The green anaconda, enormous and patient, lies submerged just beneath the surface of a flooded creek. Its mass blends with the waterlogged roots and fallen palm fronds, indistinguishable until it moves. And when it does so with finality. Its body is a hydraulic system of compressed power, designed not to chase, but to engulf. Its strength doesn't depend on aggression, it depends on timing. With no venom and no claws, the anaconda exerts dominance through muscle alone. Its DNA has evolved to support a physiology unlike any other snake. Oxygen efficient, heat sensing, pressure maximizing. Once it coils, escape is mathematically improbable. Further into the understory, where beams of sunlight break through in soft columns and insects swirl like ash in the air, a speck of color flashes from the leaf litter. The poison dart frog does not slink or hide. It parades its skin like a warning flare. Unlike the silent bulk of the anaconda, its power is molecular. The frog doesn't attack, it repels. Its skin, glistening with batrachotoxin, is a barrier of chemical warfare, lethal to most creatures that touch it. And it did not invent this weapon alone. Its diet, narrow and specific, supplies the raw alkaloids its body modifies and stores with remarkable biochemical efficiency. Its immune system, its neural pathways, even its sodium channels have been altered at the genetic level to tolerate a toxin that would stop a human heart in seconds. But the rainforest doesn't always favor large or loud. In the quiet eddies of a tributary, beneath the rippling shadows cast by overhanging vines, a different kind of predator lurks. Individually, a red-bellied piranha looks almost unremarkable. Stocky, silver-bodied, with a red splash on the chest and a jawline that suggests caution. But when food becomes scarce or blood enters the current, these fish behave as a single entity. A flick of movement, a surge of scent, and dozens converge in a calculated frenzy. Their teeth interlock with the precision of surgical blades, their bodies driven by muscle contractions, evolved to maximize torque. One piranha may bite a fingertip. 100 may strip a carcass to bone. It is not size that makes them dangerous, it is synchrony, responsiveness, and the sheer effectiveness of a coordinated swarm. And then, climbing out from under bark or sheltering beneath a stone, a new terror emerges, many-legged, low to the ground, and unmistakably alien. The Scolopendra centipede carries its own arsenal in the form of venomous forcipules, specialized legs modified into injectable fangs. It does not rely on speed, though it has it. It does not need vision, though it senses with uncanny precision. Its body reads vibration like a script and responds with a choreography of precision strikes and coils. It can climb, burrow, scale walls, and even suspend itself upside down. And its venom is both chemical and biological, digesting tissue, overstimulating nerves, and provoking a systemic reaction so painful and inflammatory that even seasoned field workers fear a simple misstep at night. And then there is silence. In that silence, under leaf litter so thick that light barely reaches, the Bushmaster waits. It does not need to move. Its body, cold and deliberate, relies on the oldest principles of predation: conserve energy, strike with certainty, and vanish before consequences arrive. It sees not with eyes, but with heat. Its venom doesn't immobilize, it destroys from the inside. Vascular walls rupture, blood turns thin and dark, and internal organs fail quietly. It doesn't give chase, it gives no warning. For all its size, it moves with the stillness of a thought. It is a reminder that in the Amazon, the absence of sound is sometimes the most dangerous sound of all. These 5 predators, anaconda, frog, fish, centipede, snake, could not be more different. Their methods of killing vary wildly: suffocation, toxin, swarming, envenomation, hemorrhage. And yet, each has been shaped by a single unifying pressure: the rainforest itself. The Amazon is not merely a backdrop to their behavior, it is the architect of it. Every layer of this ecosystem, its food scarcity, humidity, temperature shifts, terrain density, acts as a refining force, driving the evolution of traits that are not merely adapted, but exceptional. What results is not a caricature of danger, but a sophisticated suite of survival strategies, encoded in DNA and expressed in anatomy, behavior, and interaction. And woven into all this lethality is something far more subtle: restraint. None of these animals kill for sport. None of them seek out conflict with humans. Their danger lies in their efficiency, not in their intent. Most human injuries or fatalities occur when these creatures are surprised, threatened, or provoked. But when they do respond, their methods leave little margin for error. The symptoms may be delayed, the signs may be subtle, but the outcomes, if misread or untreated, can be final. From a scientific standpoint, the Amazon's predators reveal insights that extend far beyond their own ecosystems. The genetic resistance of the dart frog could illuminate treatments for neurotoxins. The venom of the Bushmaster offers a window into blood coagulation and pain response. Even the coordinated feeding of piranhas hints at the underlying mechanics of group behavior and resource distribution. These animals are not just threats, they are textbooks, constantly being rewritten by the forces of evolution and ecological change. Still, the true brilliance of these organisms may never be fully understood. The rainforest conceals more than it reveals. Many of these species are studied only in fragments, glimpsed through foliage or tracked by trace signs in the mud. Their biochemistry, behavior, and interactions are often mysteries layered beneath myth. And perhaps that is fitting, for in a world increasingly mapped and catalogued, the Amazon remains one of the few places where evolution still feels unpredictable, where DNA itself seems to defy explanation. The lethal animals of this forest, those that kill by crushing, by poison, by teeth, or by stealth, are not anomalies. They are not exaggerations. They are the rule in a place where death is not a failure, but a function, where survival is earned, never assumed, and where the most dangerous creatures are often not the largest or loudest, but the ones you never see coming. In this jungle of shadow and noise, where the edge between life and death is marked by a flash of color or the faintest vibration, these animals are not monsters. They are masters, crafted not by chance, but by the oldest and most uncompromising sculptor of all, evolution.